We have officially entered the AI revolution, and in the last year alone, we've seen exactly how powerful AI can be. With viral AI language systems such as ChatGPT being used to write up entire essays, complete school assignments, and even prepare Friday khutbah. Or image generation software that can create realistic images and videos based on prompts from your wildest imagination. Donald Trump as a Muslim.
Thank you very much.
Or even create for you a virtual studio. And of course, AI voice models that can be trained to replicate famous voices and mimic whatever sound you envision. Kanye West singing Nasheed.
Ya Habibi, ya Muhammad.
And the crazy part is this technology is making mammoth progressions by the day. But what does this mean for us as Muslims? Should we be scared? Is this a sign of an approaching apocalyptic doomsday? Or is this something that will pass over us silently and soon wither away? We sat down with one of the world's leading Muslim experts in AI, Dr. Walid Quddus, no stranger to Silicon Valley, and someone who is responsible for incorporating artificial intelligence into some of the world's biggest brands, such as Google and Uber. Someone who is responsible for pioneering Google Maps. We asked him all the difficult questions, and this is what took place. So you've been working with AI for decades, but we are often hearing now AI this, AI that.
Yeah.
What is artificial intelligence? I mean, how would you explain AI to a 10-year-old child?
Yeah, so artificial intelligence, historically how computers have been programmed is you tell them to do A and B and C. And no matter what they experience or what things they see, they don't change their behavior over time. The essence of artificial intelligence is learning from experience. In other words, every time the algorithm or the computer sees a new example, it's trying to work out what can this example teach me about the world. Throughout our lives, we actually use AI a lot. So for example, when you finish watching a video on Netflix, how does it decide what you should watch next? The AI has been looking, people who watched movie A always like movie B, or they, 50% of them watch, movie B. And so in so doing, you're actually starting to notice patterns in the world. No longer is the computer being told exactly what to do, but it's being told to adapt and modify. And that idea of adaptation is really something that historically has been something that only humans do. And now all of a sudden computers are becoming stronger at it as well.
Given that AI at the moment can generate realistic images, text, video, and speech, how difficult is it to authenticate information? Is this something that we should be cautious about?
Yeah, I think it is. And especially what we've seen, for example, in the United States with interference in elections by Russians trying to use these techniques. Imagine those techniques on steroids, right? Because now you can personalize it for every person. The detectability is difficult. So it's something we definitely have to pay attention to and hopefully regulate.
How do you feel like this will cause in terms of the spread of information and false news and things like that? How can we combat this?
Yeah, it's a really difficult problem. And I think it's also because people have not yet learned, to differentiate, between artificial content and genuine content. And the content is designed to press people's buttons. And that leads to things like confirmation bias. So really, it's up to us to really check our sources. And it's not like that this is an un-Islamic thing. In Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu. So Allah's telling us that when news comes to you, make sure to take the time to verify that. And those forms of verification are getting more technically complicated, but it's the same basic principles.
From your experience, how far is AI from becoming sentient or conscious?
Yeah, well, scientists have struggled to define consciousness for a long time, and I don't think we have a good grip on it. The Quran says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. They ask you about the soul or the essence of consciousness. They say that knowledge is from the matters of my Lord. In other words, this type of thing is still not something that people can answer. There's also questions about whether the question is well formed. One of the early computer science pioneers said, asking if machines can think is like asking if submarines can swim. They're just so different that the question doesn't even make sense.
Will AI replace our friends? Will people stop finding the need to get married and having human relationships?
Unfortunately, I do foresee a change on that front. In particular, marriage rates are plummeting across Western societies. Birth rates are plummeting across Western societies. And the cause of that, essentially, is the rise of pornography on the internet. Now, imagine that you take that as an example, and this is only one of the social implications, but imagine that, but really amp it up to 11, where you can use AI to craft an identity that is very tailored to your personal preferences and what you find interesting, whether that's through text or voice or images. And you can see that same unfortunate pattern of social damage that happened with pornography, but much amplified. And that's, I think, something that society will have to deal with. I think it's one of the concerns I do have for how AI will adversely affect the community. And unfortunately, we're already starting to see signs of that.
Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, who created ChatGPT, has said that the technology may pose a risk of extinction.
Yeah.
As someone who's experienced in AI and as a Muslim, how would you respond to that?
It doesn't keep me awake at night, is maybe the best way to put it. If you look at the other causes of extinction, like climate change, and just society kind of falling apart and the family unit kind of being destroyed, which is what we're seeing now, this isn't the thing that gets me, really worried. The technology is still at its infancy, and Sam Altman has his own agenda. So I've been in Silicon Valley for 15 years now. And what you do is when you have a startup, you want to build a moat around it. You want to build barriers to entry to other people entering it. And so what you do is you get the government to do your dirty work for you, introduce regulations that you know how to meet that other people don't know how to meet. And that's just how business is played. So while I respect Sam Altman's technical abilities, it's also very important to understand that he has an agenda here that he is trying to pursue. And that's just what he's going to do as the CEO of OpenAI.
What are some potential uses of AI in the Islamic space that can actually contribute positively?
Yeah, I think I've seen some very interesting applications. I think one that really demonstrates the possibilities is Tartil, which is a mobile phone app that listens to you read Quran and tells you when you make a mistake. Historically, this has taken you sitting down with someone or finding someone to be your buddy. But this app makes it so much easier. So it's like a general tool that can be used for almost any purposes. The apps that can generate images can generate artistic images that encourage us to kind of really reflect if they're in the right hands with the right prompts. There are so many exciting possibilities here in terms of just every aspect of Islam.
So as an expert in AI, do you trust the information that comes out from these bots and programs?
No, I don't. I know that may sound counterintuitive to people, but I've spent a lot of time working with these bots firsthand, and I know that they have a problem with what's called hallucination. It's not just that they are ignorant, which means that they don't know, but they hallucinate. They don't know that they don't know. In other words, they can make stuff up, be 100% confident that it's correct. They call that jahl murakkab in Arabic, when you don't know that you don't know. Yeah, so yes, the big problem with AI is jahl murakkab, right? Yes. Nothing stops it from making up a hadith that doesn't exist, for example. And the current iterations of the technology have a problem called hallucination. They just make things up. So there are certain chatbots that if you ask them right now, do I need to wash my knees as part of wudu? Will tell you, yes, you have to wash your knees as part of wudu. And so sometimes they'll make things up, and especially dangerous is they can be very confident that they're and wrong at the same time. So they won't tell you, I'm not sure. They will just give you a confident answer. So I think we have to kind of be very cautious about using AI in the religious space. I think there are uses. Imagine, right now searching Quran and Hadith is still very difficult. Because often we look for words, but words don't capture meaning. And one of the great things with these AI systems is that they capture meaning, or what's called semantic information. And that makes things like Hadith search and Quran search potentially much better. And that could also be a very awesome tool for scholars. But scholars have the wisdom to interpret and judge that.